There's going to be, yeah? Yeah, all right, cool. What are your views on the gentrification of District 5, specifically the increasing rents and low vacancy rates and the increasing commercial rents along the Divis corridor with Buy Right and Chase Bank moving in, for example?
As a member of the Planning Commission, I fought really hard to make sure that small businesses were protected. Just today, me and my staff member, Christina Rizzo, presented to the Divisadero Merchants Association some new controls that we hope would help protect small independently owned businesses along Divisadero, to name Divisadero an NCT, a neighborhood commercial, a named district, in other words. So far, we gave that back to the merchants, and we hope that they'll bring back feedback, but we think that that would definitely help. Also, as you know, I have been a long, strong advocate for renters' rights. I started out here in the Mission District several years ago working with the Mission Anti-Displacement Coalition. We fought hard against gentrification here. I do not support the tenancy in common legislation that's currently being proposed by Scott Wiener and Mark Farrell. We need to do everything that we can do in our power to protect rent control housing. Sadly, a lot of the laws that control and regulate rent control housing come from the state level. We need to work with Tom Amiano. We need to work with other state legislators to reform the Alice Act and to reform or repeal Costa-Hawkins. The same goes for small businesses and rent control of small businesses. That's something that's on the state level. We have to work with state legislators to help stem the tide of gentrification.
I would like to just ask you briefly, you mentioned you would like to do something about the rent control and the housing situations, and you mentioned the word hope. I think it's great to have optimism, but I want to know, can you in 2 to 3 sentences say what, in a concrete way,
the tenancy in common legislation, for instance, is something that I believe that this club and anyone who supports rent control housing has to oppose. Mm-hmm. Because what tenancies in common tend to do is gut rent control housing. So I'm sympathetic to families and others who live in TICs. I believe we have to do whatever we can to protect rent control housing, which is why I opposed Park Merced development, which stood to gut 1,500 units of rent controlled housing with no clear protections. Many of you know that Costa-Hawkins and the Alice Act are 2 laws that really do govern rent control. Those are state laws that we only look for creative ways of amending locally. I have a long track record. I'll send you a sheet of everything I've already done. Yeah. But on the state level, we have to reform that legislation. Otherwise, there's not a hell of a lot we can do locally.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. I think there's a great example going on right now with the Harding Theater. I do believe San Francisco needs to protect its history, and the Harding Theater is a part of our history. A lot of silent films were showed there. The Grateful Dead played there in 1972, very close to when I was born. And that is a piece of history, and also could be a great community space. But the developers want to put condos in there. Condos on a block where the Independent is, that should be a thriving corridor for entertainment and music. And that's what's going to happen is it's going to become there's going to be a conflict. And I think we need to zone better, and we need to protect our areas that are dedicated for entertainment, and also decide what's important to us. Is our history important to us, or is it important for us to have condos for rich people? So I think we need to do a better job of that. I agree with everybody on rent control. We need to support and strengthen rent control, absolutely. But we also need to educate tenants. I was campaigning out at 9th and Irving, and I ran into a woman who said that she's been in an apartment, and the landlord has evicted 5 people in that apartment because they didn't know their rights as tenants. So I think it's important for us to educate tenants about the fact that they have rights, and about how rent control works, and how landlords shouldn't be able to use or threaten with the Ellis Act eviction to get people out, especially people that aren't knowledgeable. Thank you.
So there's a few areas about gentrification. There's business, and then there's people trying to live in this city. We are being priced out of our own city in San Francisco, and everyone knows people who left because they can no longer afford it, they got evicted or whatever. I can tell you one thing, this city seems to be going in the opposite direction, not in the direction we need to be. For instance, Scott Wiener has a piece of legislation termed about historic preservation. It's actually not about historic preservation, it's about making it easier to tear down rent-controlled buildings. That's what it's about, to prevent them from getting historic preservation status so that we can just tear them down. And that is a very pro-gentrification measure. 8 Washington is a very pro-gentrification measure. I mean, first of all, the city is subsidizing this. The city is putting $5 million into this, and it's housing for billionaires. You can't get more gentrified than that. For businesses, we don't treat small businesses very well. We make it hard for small businesses to stay in our neighborhoods. And if we want to stop gentrification, we have to keep the small businesses here. There are too many permits, they have to go to too many places, the inspections are arbitrary, and we've got to consolidate this and make it easier for business. It's not difficult. Thanks.
So I have my own small business, and I have a personal story of the gentrification right now in Mid-Market. I have been on 5th and Market for 10 years, my small business. We have 7 employees. We give them health insurance, and we give them a paycheck. We do, our best. We've grown very slowly over the years, but we're there. And they're taking our building, 944 Market, taking the 8th floor, raising it, R-A-Z-I-N-G, and putting in a high-tech company, okay? This is happening all over the city. This is a problem. Mid-Market should not be about switching over, nor should it District 5. It should not be about switching over from small businesses, which frankly are the backbone of this city. They are the economic engine of this city. So to be saying that we're going to take, and I can tell you, I heard Mayor Lee, he said, Twitter's going to bring in 5,000 jobs, and next week he said, Twitter's going to bring in 2,500 jobs, and next week he said, Twitter's going to bring in 800 jobs. And I'm thinking, is this going to end at 7? Because if it ends at 7, we're at my size company, okay? So my point here is that gentrification, definitely, if we want to keep the small businesses, the unique businesses, we've got to protect them in some way. And I have some ideas that I've been talking with the Office of Small Business about, which have to do with working with some of these property owners and literally saying these businesses need to stay, you need to protect them. The other thing I want to talk about is St. Francis Square, which is a co-op, which is awesome. We need more co-ops in this city. We need more housing that is put together by the union. It's the longshoremen that put this together, and that it's not there for profit. It's there so people have good housing. Thank you.